How would you feel if Japan called their air company Heroes of Pearl Harbor? I actually, that would not bother me. By the way, Japan continues to honor, let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Went and honored a Japanese World War II war criminal at a sacred shrine. And he paid tribute to soldiers who gave their lives for the foundation of the fatherland. Right. He was under fire from China and South Korea for his perceived attitude to Japan's wartime history. Mr. Abe sent a message to the Buddhist Koyoshin Okonu Temple in Wayama, Japan. This is a story, by the way, from 10 years ago. It's a monument to 1,000 Showa martyrs, referring to soldiers who fought in World War II in the name of late Emperor Hirohito. And the monument honors 14 Class A war criminals who were military leaders and commemorated the more well-known Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo. So, again, interesting. He had previously said those convicted by the tribunal set up after Allied forces after the war are not considered war criminals under Japanese law. So I can tell you that we've basically had that happen, and while it certainly raised the ire of China and South Korea, as an American, I don't really care. For the same reason. We're like, listen, I get it. You have a history. That history is filled with figures of various moral character, and you can acknowledge that they were a part of your country's history and still be like, they also did bad things, and those bad things are bad. Okay, thanks to the 50 PLN. Artward Warnick. I support Ukraine and think the whole thing is making Poland and Ukraine less safe, but I think many Poles would let it go if the extreme nature of the massacres would go acknowledged and addressed. I think that's a fair point. I think even the unit to sit there and say, hey, listen, officially, this is what we feel about Bandera. You know, for the same reason you'd say, oh, Thomas Jefferson Hall. Like, you put in a little plaque that says, we get it. Thomas Jefferson was not a saint. He did some bad things, right? He owned human beings. But he founded the country, and we were named Thomas Jefferson Hall after these parts of him, the parts that advocated for liberty for all people and the rights of individuals and the nobility of the human spirit. And like, that is what we embody. And that's why our cafeteria is named Jefferson Hall. The end. Yeah, I think that would be good to just be like, yeah, dude, Bandera, not a great guy, did some bad things, but he was also someone who is instrumental in the founding of Ukraine. And we have this unit that is named after him in the spirit of fighting for Ukraine, right? Okay, the blind dog. War is going on. It's for rally, not for being racist. I think I see what you mean. Like, yeah, it's partially to rally kind of the right and to get a nationalist fervor. I get that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it has people like, okay, Jefferson wasn't a collaborator who killed Jews and Poles in the tens of thousands. But Thomas Jefferson did, in founding the country, permit millions of people to live in slavery for a century. So, that's also bad. Uh, and I don't think he was. Yeah, he also stripped Native Americans of their lands, secretly plotted to dispossess tribes by trapping them in debt that they probably never really understood. Again, he viewed Native resistance to American expansion as a roadblock to his vision of an empire of liberty. Again, he did bad things. Like Thomas Jefferson ended up killing or enslaving a lot of people through his actions. They were like, you're brushing off slavery. It's not brushing off. Again, you acknowledge it. You're like, this is a bad thing this person did, and it's horrific. And then you go, and they were also instrumental in founding our country. So you can just sit there and be like, we recognize their significance in the founding role, and we also acknowledge they did bad things. I get the vitriol because, again, I'm telling you, 5 years ago in America, if you could not say a good thing about Thomas Jefferson, you had to only be like, he was a slave owner, white supremacist, genocidal, bloodthirsty maniac. And you should strip all references to him everywhere that they occur. That if you were in a college or university or a workplace, that was the norm. And I can tell you that was a extremely that was an extremely myopic way of dealing with history. Ace Camps, do you think the Ukrainian people ever forgive the Russian people after the war is over? Will there be forever hatred? I don't think people are going to hate each other forever. I don't even know if they'll blame the Russian people any more than again, the Poles or Ukrainians blame the German people. Like today's German people don't know or like don't view themselves as a continuity of that government. People are like, how would he react if we started naming stuff after Benedict Arnold? Okay. I'm sure there's stuff in Canada named after Benedict Arnold. I don't lose my mind. I mean, look. How much shit in the UK is named after King George? King George was a colonialist oppressor. Then there's shit everywhere. The whole fucking UK is named after King George. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think that there's like a hatred of like the average Russian, because the average Russian just has to survive in Poland's or in Putin's regime. Claire JR, that's a great point. Yeah, Sherman, General Sherman, someone who a ton of stuff is named after, absolutely committed what we would now consider war crimes, right? That he burned civilian infrastructure, burned houses, burned farms, literally just wanted to cause as much damage to the southern civilian infrastructure as possible. And he did so because he was like, I'm a strident abolitionist, and these people have these rich landowners have enslaved people and then forced a bunch of poor Southerners to fight their war, they should understand. They should understand what they have asked of people and what other people who have had to fight their wars have wrought. And like, is he a war criminal in the South? Yeah. Do we name stuff after him? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people are like, oh, um, interesting. Saint F off. Would the Department of War consider Patton's war crimes to be war crimes? The Department of War does not consider its own war crimes to be war crimes. Yeah, this is one of those arguments. It's true. Uh, Yeah, exactly. So non war crimes. Yeah, it is fascinating to see the uh like real uh real workup that people have towards this guy. Yeah, it is like fascinating just to see just how like I mean wild. And it seems like one of those things that have just become like a huge cultural it seems like almost a cultural referendum, you know? But I'm telling you, like the the wild part is again, there's a time where if you're like, I love the founding fathers and I love what they stood for, in America, that was considered extremely right-wing coded. It still kind of is. If you have a favorite founding father, it's taken as a given that you're like a Republican. Okay. Oh wow. Thanks for the 50. Ukraine denies that the Volna cleaning. I think that means the massacre. It's too much to acknowledge it. Allow exhumation of victims and give them a memorial. Instead, the perpetrators are glorified. That is hostile and a blunder. Um, I mean that I agree with. Like you know, you have to at least acknowledge that your heroes did like do some bad things, and part of acknowledging it is stuff like that, like saying, yeah, that happened. Um, and again, yeah, like burying victims. Again, it'd be like Americans saying like lynchings never occurred. Um, yeah, yeah. So interesting. He considered John Locke, Francis Bacon, and Isaac Newton the three greatest men who ever lived. Also influenced by Gibbon, Hume, Robertson, Bolingbroke, Montesquieu, and Voltaire. The independent yeoman and agrarian life were ideal Republican virtues. Distrusted cities and financiers, favoring decentralized government power. Believing that tyranny that plagued the common man in Europe was due to corrupt political establishment. He wanted to disestablish the Church of England. wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, and pressed for a wall of separation between church and state. Right? Scholars give radically different interpretations on Jefferson's views and relationship to slavery. Opinions range from emancipationists who viewed him as an early proto-abolitionist who made pragmatic compromises with slave power to preserve the Union, and revisionists who argue that, in fact, he entrenched the institution in American society. With people having more nuanced opinions, we argue that Jefferson held inconsistent views on the institution throughout his lifetime, where the birth interpretations are overly simplistic. Right? He lived in a planter economy, independent upon slavery, and as a wealthy landowner, used slave labor in his household, plantation, and workshops. He first recorded his slaveholding in 1774 with 41 enslaved people. Over his lifetime, 600 enslaved people. He inherited 175, while the remainder were born on his plantations. He purchased some slaves in order to reunite their families, sold approximately 110 people for economic reasons, primary slaves from his outlying farms. The number of people enslaved in 1784 was about 200, and he began to divest himself of many slaves and had divested himself of 161 individuals by 1794. His nail factory was staffed only by enslaved children, and many of the enslaved boys became tradesmen. Jefferson felt slavery was harmful to both slave and master, but had reservations about releasing slaves from captivity and advocated for gradual emancipation. You see what I mean. During his presidency, he allowed slavery in the Louisiana Territory, hoping to prevent slave uprisings in Virginia and to prevent South Carolina from seceding, which happened anyway. Thought it would destroy the Union if Missouri banned domestic slave importation and freed slaves at the age of 25. Jesus. So, yeah, this is... I mean, there are still descendants of Jefferson's slaves that he had children with. They're alive today, and they are forbidden to be buried at his estate, unlike his legitimate children. Yeah, wow. Okay, I had no idea this was such a controversial issue. I really did not. And I know I know Russia loves it because it is a controversial sore spot. Like it's a fault line. Again, the United States has been on the receiving end of this exact same Russian tactic that basically works the exact same way, which is you take a historic figure who has very different perceptions along a fault line, cultural or identity fault line, and you wedge them really hard. Yeah, see, the trolls are already in chat. Like, America's built on land theft, genocide, and slavery. Maybe that's why the USA is Israel's biggest supporter. It's like all of that is true. And it is also true that America is built on individual liberty, freedom, rights, and the protection of minorities. It just like both of those things are true. And just the ideals, like they're ideals and they were implemented in like deeply flawed ways. Yeah, I'm not arguing that there isn't like truth to the debate, but like countries have interests, and generally those interests are not in the line of relitigating like historic wrongs of the past, if that makes sense. I'm not a troll. I mean, that's a classic troll line of the like, you did you know that America bad? It's like, yeah, but as I always point out, people are like America was founded on slavery. I have never found a historic example where the majority of a country, the majority group, took up arms and murdered other members of the majority group in defense of an oppressed minority. It has never happened, as far as I can tell, in human history. America is the only country where the legitimate government woke up and was like, God damn, other whites are enslaving people and we are tired of it. And we are going to kill them at an industrial scale until the enslaved peoples are freed. Never happened. There is no other country that has done that. Every other country has said, "Oh, we're religion A, and people from religion A get to oppress religion B. Good, great, awesome. We are on our side," right? It has, as far as I can tell, never happened. And sometimes there's been like the UK, right? Did a legalized manumission and sort of wound down slavery and made it illegal and stopped the slave trade, but they've never gone on and been like Sherman's March to the Sea, unhinged, unprecedented in history. Again, a member of an ethnic majority going to war, burning the lands of other members of that ethnic majority because of what they've done to an ethnic minority. Ace Camps, Iran knows our petro reserves are running out. What more can they do to get out of a desperate Trump? If they gave them a warship. That's the only thing that we have yet to give the Iranians. I mean, with 300 bill, you can buy an entire fleet, right? Damn. Okay, the Iranians just said, yeah, we agreed in Switzerland to release 12 billion of frozen Iranian assets in exchange for what? Like they get licensed to sell 15 billion of oil, another 12 billion in frozen assets in exchange for something that the Iranians were doing anyway, which is letting in IAEA inspectors. The last IAEA inspection, according to their website, took place February 14th of 2026, 2 weeks before the war started. Like a recession will be much worse than 300 billion. That is true. But hear me out. Hormuz was open before. And 300 billion, guys, is the entire GDP of Iran. That is the entire US Air Force budget, right? Volodymyr, thanks to 5 Canadian. No good president in war will project weakness by responding to blackmail. Right-wing polls want Ukraine as a secondary buffer state, not an equal partner. Yeah, I don't know enough about internal Polish politics to know what like the average right-wing poll thinks. I understand the fact that you're like, yeah, like Zelensky also has a right flank that seem to be ultra pro Bandera and like will not let anybody criticize him, which is also kind of annoying. It'd be like somebody again being like, oh, Thomas Jefferson never held anyone in slavery. It's like, come on, man. Like that's not even factually correct. But again, these like who's genuflecting how is a pretty useless like track to go down, like relitigating century-old wrongs. I get it. The feelings are strong. I get that. But like Abe honoring like Japanese World War II criminals, Americans are just like, yeah, I get it, man. You lost. Like you're a friend today, you know, and you're obviously not the Empire of Japan or whatever. Okay, so the total budget deficit of 2026 is 2 trillion. Yikes. Jesus. That's just the deficit. It's not even the debt. Still, that is what, a sixth? A sixth of the total budget deficit. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, check out another video here, and of course, become a member at combatvetnews.com for access to an entire archive of premium videos, including combat footage that YouTube would never let me show you. The link is in the description. And of course, a huge thanks to all of the Combat Vet News members.